Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Idiotic Sports Talk. I'm your host, Liam Gavin, coming to you live from my kitchen. And let's talk Game 7. Game 7, Boston Celtics getting the win over the Toronto Raptors, the defending champion Toronto Raptors, that is. And this game was an absolute showdown from start to finish. Let's look at the first quarter. You had the Celtics, who got off to a 12-0 run when the game was tied at 7-7. And it looked like Boston was going to run away with it like they have in previous games when they jump up by that lead. But the Toronto Raptors show how tough and good of a team they are when they made a 20-7 run at the end of the quarter, making the quarter 27-26, favoring the Raptors. So now the Celtics enter the second quarter. The Raptors take their largest lead of the game with 7 points as it's 40-33. Boston sparks a 13-2 run, which makes it 46-43. The Celtics close out the half 50-46. They go into halftime. They're up by 4. They had a really great second quarter after they were starting off slow in the second and were down by 7. They started to get it together. So now after halftime, the third quarter comes. The third quarter's been a nightmare for the Celtics in this series. They lost every third quarter of this series as the Raptors outscored them 22-19 in the third quarter. That was tough. That was very tough. I was very shocked at that stat. I thought that they could have at least won a quarter. The Celtics could have. The third quarter, that is. But they couldn't, and they're up 72-71 at the end of the third. I'm still sweating over here. I'm like, we're going into the fourth. This is going to be a showdown. Boston goes on a really great run to start the fourth. They get a couple steals. They get a couple threes to fall. And next thing you know, they jump up 88-78. I'm happy. I'm like, let's go. There's, a little over 6 minutes. I know they could close us out. They're going to run away with this. But nope, the Raptors go on a run of their own, and they cut the lead down to 89-87. Now I'm really sweating bullets because there's under 2 minutes left. There's about a minute and a half. I'm like, oh man, please don't tell me Boston's going to choke this lead. I'll be really upset. This would be like the worst Game 7 loss ever. But here comes Marcus Smart. Norman Powell gets the ball. He drives for a layup, and Marcus Smart with a very clutch block. He single-handedly won that game, Marcus Smart, in my opinion. I mean, just watch it. He was everywhere. He was able to score. He was able to defend great. I think he won them that game, and that's why the Celtics are advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. So he blocks Norman Powell. Grant Williams, the rookie, gets the ball. He gets fouled. I'm like, all right, here we go. Grant Williams coming up. I know he's missed 3 throws in the past, but he's going to be clutch today. He's going to make 2. Nope, he missed not 1, but he missed his 2 free throws. But have no fear, because Jason Tatum launched up for the offensive rebound, grabbed it, and was fouled hitting the ground. Now, Jason Tatum sinks a free throw. Celtics go up by 3. All Tatum has to do is sink this second free throw, but guess what? He misses it. And the Celtics don't get lucky, and they don't get another offensive rebound. Now, Fred VanVleet is able to get the ball. He puts up a 3 that was partially blocked. Kemba Walker recovers. He gets fouled. And Kemba, for how badly shooting he had in this series, was able to sink both free throws. Boston goes on to win 92-87 in a game that was an absolute thriller. It went down to the wire. I had the Celtics, because I'm a Celtics fan, I had them winning in 7 against the Raptors. It should have never even went to 7 games. Boston was up 2-0. The Raptors got a crazy clutch shot by OG Anunoby. That was a crazy shot. I mean, if the Celtics wound up losing this series, that would have haunted Boston fans for a long time. That shot by OG Anunoby with half a second left. Game 3, Boston, or not Game 3, I'm sorry. Game 5, Boston came out strong. They looked really good. And you start to figure, like, all right, they'll take this in 6, But nope. Game 6, double overtime. Toronto wins it on another game that Boston should have won. But they just weren't able to execute in the final seconds. But last night, Game 7, Boston showed how tough of a team it was. Their grit and determination pushed them to defeat the defending champion Raptors, who looked great all season long. The Raptors really showed how tough they are. They gave me a heart attack. They gave me headaches. They made me pull all my hair out this whole entire series. So now we'll look at the field goal percentages. The Raptors scored better last night with 41% compared to Boston's 40%. They were also better three-point shooters too, as they had 28% of their field goals made, or 28% of their three-pointers made compared to Boston's 23% of their three-pointers made. The free throws favored Toronto as they shot 89% from the free throw line compared to Boston's 76%. I said that if Boston lost this game, it would have been because of the free throws. I believe they were 11 of 20 from the free throw line. It was crazy. I know Kemba missed 2 at one point. Grant Williams missed those 2. Tatum missed a total of 2. I think Jaylen Brown might have missed 1. Daniel Tice, I'm pretty sure, missed 2 as well. So they had a really rough night from the free throw percentage. I think that would have determined the outcome if they lost this game. The rebounds favored Boston 55 to 52. Same for the assists. They had 19 compared to the Raptors 17. Here's where the defense came in, and here's why Boston won this series, because of the steals and their defensive rebounding, their turnovers. They look great. Boston had 12 steals last night compared to Toronto's 1. And the total turnovers that the Raptors had were 18, while Boston only had 12. And now here's the other thing. The points off the turnover favored Boston, 31 to Toronto's 18. So that's 13 points plus that Boston got from Toronto's turnovers. Their defense was absolutely amazing last night down the stretch, and that's the reason why they won this game, plain and simple. They played their hearts out on defense. Marcus Smart, I don't know why he hasn't won Defensive Player of the Year yet. I guess because he's not that great of a scorer, or he's a little inconsistent on the scoring, and the league doesn't really care about defense anymore. But that guy, he balled out last night, plain and simple. There's no debate about that. He was an absolute stud. Let's take a look at Boston. Let's see how they played in this series. Tatum had 24 points and 10 rebounds per game. He averaged a double-double. He was killing it that whole series. He had like 1 or 2 okay games, but other than that, he balled out and he did his thing. Jaylen Brown, he averaged 20 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, and close to 2 steals a game. He had a rough game 4, and he had a rough game 6, but he's bounced back a few games, and he's another main part of why the Celtics are so good and why they're advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals as well. Kemba Walker, he struggled. He had 17 points per game and 6 assists per game. But I think he'll get in his groove. He had a really rough night the other night. He had a rough game 6 with only 5 points. But I love Kemba Walker because he opens things up for all these players. He opens things up for Tatum and Brown to blossom. He lets Marcus Smart take the role. Unlike with somebody, Kyrie Irving, who did not let these guys blossom, you know. And I love Kyrie, but it just seems like he wasn't that good fit in Boston like Kemba Walker is. Now let's take a look at Daniel Tice. He may not be the best center in the league, but he fits Boston perfect. He had 10 points per game. He had 8 rebounds per game and 1.7 blocks. He almost had 2 blocks per game. He looked absolutely amazing out there. And then Smart. Marcus Smart, he is the MVP of this series. He had 15.7 points per game. He had 6 rebounds per game and at least 1 steal per game. He was everywhere on the defensive end. He was causing a bunch of turnovers. He was taking offensive fouls. He just looked great. He's definitely the MVP of this series. Robert Williams gave them valuable minutes off the bench. He looked good too. And don't forget, Gordon Hayward could possibly be returning against the Heat. He's a 17 point per game per scorer. Boston could use a guy like that. Now we'll look at the Raptors. They performed great this season. They exceeded expectations in my eyes. We had Kyle Lowry, who had 20.7 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He also almost averaged 2 steals a game. Fred VanVleet with 18.5 points per game. He did his thing. If Toronto won this series, it would have been those two guys that carried him. Pascal Siakam really struggled. I see social media ripping him apart right now. I feel bad for Spicy P because he's such a great player. He only had 14 points per game, 7 rebounds. He did not shoot well at all. He did not play good defense. Jaylen Brown locked him up for this whole series. Marc Gasol, 5 points a game, another guy who didn't show up for the Raptors. How about Serge Ibaka, though, with 12 points per game? He looked like Steph Curry out there shooting threes, man. Every time he shot that 3 ball, I was like, oh, man, it's probably going to go in. It usually did. He had 12 points per game, vintage Serge Ibaka. OG Anunoby, he would have been the hero of the series if Toronto would have won. That Game 3 would have went down in history for sure. He had 11 points per game, 7 rebounds per game. Norman Powell's another key bench piece. He had 11 points per game. Toronto bench definitely did a way better job at scoring than the Boston bench. There's no debate about that. The interesting thing about the Raptors is that Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, and Fred VanVleet are all free agents. I don't know what they're going to do from here. I could see them definitely letting go of Ibaka and Gasol, but would they let go of VanVleet too? We're going to find that out. And did the Raptors need Kawhi Leonard? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes to an extent because without Kawhi Leonard, I don't think they win that championship. Can they contend for a championship without him? Yes. I think they could have made the finals with this roster they had now. But Kawhi Leonard's that guy that would push them over the top. We saw him win a championship with the Raptors. He did his thing. He looked absolutely amazing. He's a top 3 player in the league. People argue that he is the best player in the league right now. I don't think so, but he's in the top 3 for sure, or maybe even top 2. Guy's a baller. He's even carrying the Clippers right now if you look at it. So, yeah, the Raptors, who knows what their future holds, but I'm just excited for the Eastern Conference Finals, Boston Celtics versus Miami Heat. It's going to be a good one. I'm going Celtics in 7. You already know. Seize up, baby. So thank you guys for tuning in to episode 3 of the Idiotic Sports Talk. I am your host, Liam Gavin. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at The Idiotic Sports Talk. YouTube is The Idiotic Sports Talk. And for my first 100 subscribers and my first 100 followers on Instagram, I'm going to do a $100 cash giveaway. So make sure you follow me and subscribe. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.